The Digital Earth Africa Coastline Monitoring Service uses satellite data to map the typical location of the African coastline through time. And in today's live session, our facilitator is going to show us how to access the Digital Earth Africa Coastlines data within the DE Africa Map and Sandbox, as well as access the Digital Earth Africa Coastal Erosion Notebooks and coastal data on the AfroGeo portal by our partners, Esri. Greetings, fellow leaders from the African continent and across the world. It's always so lovely to have you with us every Wednesday of the month. My name is Maud Nale. I'm the communications lead at Digital Earth Africa. And today we're going to be talking about exactly that. It's all things coastal erosion and how to use the Digital Earth Africa platform specific to the sandbox and the maps to be able to access coastline data. I'm about to introduce our facilitator. He is no stranger to the live sessions, to the users. He is our capacity development lead. Please join me in welcoming onto the virtual stage, Dr. Kenneth Mubea. Dr. Mubea, the virtual stage is yours. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're calling from. I'm Kenneth with Digital Africa. Today's presentation is on the coastlines, which affects most of us, as I can see from how we are connected across the continent. So this data set has been developed with the partners in Africa. And just as the mission of the program is to empower all the countries to be able to access Digital Earth Africa from wherever you're connecting us from. So you could be connecting us from, one of the 55 countries. So in this particular case today, from the mandate we've had is to move from the various products from agriculture, water resources, land acquisition, and now more specifically to the coastlines. So coastlines, as was developed sometime last year, was to aggregate all the data sets we have on Landsat to produce a service which can help us inform how the coastlines have changed over time. So this is quite big data sets, about petabytes of data, which is stored by our partner Amazon Web Service. So the context in the countries that are covered by coastlines, it covers at least 38 countries, and some of these are affected because of the coastal communities, and they are vulnerable to climate change, as you've seen over time. And in the southern countries, we've had periods of the different cyclones which affect people around the times of November and December. And the same is similar to other places. So with this coastline monitoring service from Digital Africa, is empower the governments to be able to access the datasets and able to see the trend over the last 10 or 15 years based on the data we have at Landsat at 30 meters, which is somewhere to start, as we receive more requests for high resolution, perhaps Sentinel 2 in the near future. But the game changer of these data sets, it's the only one for the continent, and it's informing us what has happened, including showing some hotspots. This is borrowed from our partner at Digital Earth Australia, more specifically the algorithms, and more specifically how we worked with our partners in the continent to do the validation. And we'll be able to track 38 countries, and this is interactive map anyone can come in and actually use, and gives us the change of the coastlines, and also giving us an opportunity to identify the hotspot. Some of these areas are well known to different people in the local communities. So it's also good to empower the communities to be part of the validation and actually inform what they are seeing on the ground, the situation. So the validation task was done, borrowed on the work done by Centers of Ecology as part of the West Africa project, where I was mapping at least 8 or 10 countries. And based on that methodology, we were able to scale up all these validation for the whole continent, covering now 38 countries. It's quite a game changer, but also it's quite open to also reviews from different partners and persons based on where you're connecting us from. So for example, this one can show us the change in coastline, for example, in Namibia, where we have some changes, especially skeleton coast because of the waves from the Atlantic. Different countries, different situation. Moving now to the other side, we've seen some areas, hotspot areas, for example, in Mozambique and some parts of Madagascar. So all these are quite dynamic, especially if you're connecting us from Accra the situation is different, because I know Wales used to have an office at the coast and they had to be relocated to some safe areas. So the uncertainty with this information can help us to see how much damage can occur to some properties based on what governments have invested, and actually try to advise governments on how our citizens can actually live in safe areas. As we know, we are all prone to climate change and other disasters which come over time and they are not really announced. So the dataset from Digital South Africa is open to be used by anybody. You could be using it in your software, you could be using it in your QGIS or ArcGIS or any other web service, and it's free to empower the continent, and you can also use it to do some training. So we've also developed a learning course on the same in English and French, so as to can build our capacity to use these products. So access to this platform is quite a very simple. We have the access on the Digital Africa map, which I'll actually able to show you. And this one, as we exploit coastlines, you can see more metadata information. And as you can see more description about the data set. Then when you add it to your map, you can be able to see the areas in red, some quite hotspot areas. We can just move just randomly and see how it works. Some parts of Libya, Belize. We can also move randomly to some parts of Egypt. As you can see, around Alexandria. You can also, I know, around Tunis, where Anis is connecting us from. So there are many possibilities. So we can just move into some of the areas where I notice we have people connected us from. And I remember I was showing it to a professor somewhere in Tangier, in Morocco, where it's quite coastal main port area. So we could actually see how those changes are over time, especially at the port cities. Moving now to like Dakar, you can see the changes over time, and you can actually share the link with someone. For example, for Dakar, I could just go around Dakar, and so some areas in blue could show at least not so bad areas, but areas in red show us quite some hotspots. So that's the kind of message that we have. And also you can measure how much has changed using the measure tool. You can see maybe the change over time, at least 100 meters, not so good for development. Then also you can change the map background as well. We can put in maps to visualize things at least much better. And also you can see how it actually relates and correlates with the ocean. This is quite a game changer service for the whole continent. And the best thing with this is that you can also develop your story map. And also then you can share the link, like I can share on the link here. Then you can share with someone else to actually see, oh, actually today I went on the platform and I saw something happen here. I was able to do some validation, for example, where Wallace was in the office. I could see at the coast, some areas where some areas really changed over time. And I remember we were trying to see how much change in terms of you can actually do the measurements. Just for an example, 30 meters, some areas were 30 meters, some areas were bigger. So it depends on how dynamic the coasts are. So at least when you think about your country, you might think the situation is better. Others are a little bit different. For example, the coast of Namibia, where I mentioned, quite had interesting figures, quite big figures. As you can see from the red, almost 7 meters, 6 meters, etc., etc. So all this data set is for us in the continent to make use of. And I was just demonstrating some of the hotspot areas, and we'll be able to share the presentation with you for you to follow up, as well as the recording. And that was just the Digital Africa map. So how about the sandbox? So on the sandbox, we have 2 notebooks. There's the coastlines under the dataset folder, and here you're able to look at the notebook itself and giving you more information, at least over 11 years of data, and how you can actually run the tool to monitor some areas. So this is just an example of area in Mombasa, the coast, where there was erosion as well as there was some dredging of the coast. So at least these two options where you could look at the erosion as well as you can look at the gains from dredging, where you try to really claim part of the sea. So this is some of the areas showing you the years and the trend over 11 years. So the trends were quite worrying at some point because of some developments on the coast. And this is quite a densely populated area. That's why there's a reason as well. You can see an airport nearby. And then when you move down, you can also see the change, the coast. So the other one was just erosion. And then also you can see the rate over time, how good it is or how bad it is, of course, based on the colors. And you can see the relatively some hotspot areas and the distances and the time and how much they have occurred over time. So this is just for an area of which we can always run for a different region. Then also you can do the same as I was showing on the Africa map. You can be able to see the changes over time. Then also you can run just for a certain area. You can do a transact to see how much area has changed. So this is just a typical interaction. You could change the base map as well to something that you're able to relate to. For example, we could just run somewhere around Port Novo. It's just random anyways. So we're just doing it random. Let's say Lome. So we could just choose some certain areas and you can just do a transact and see how it fits. So here you're just able to draw a polygon, or even you can do a measure, see how much change has occurred over time. So all these tools, they are for us at our disposal. And the other one was the next tool was the coastal erosion notebook. That one is in the real world example. So these tools are very nice for us to make use of. Initially, it was using Landsat, and now they have added Sentinel 1 and 2, so as to add more imagery for a certain area. So it's had a certain criteria when it runs. First, it has to choose between which images to load. So for the example I have here is an area called Fomboni in Comoros, just trying to see how this has affected these small islands. And as we move, you can see the notebook tries to make some decisions based on what is available. This is based on the cloud cover, so as to give you something which is around 90%, which is good quality, or even best 50%, so we can be able to see much more change over time. Also modeling the tides and also generating the mean water index and giving you just a feel of what has happened over time, because the main message is to see how much you can extend and finally what you cannot put as a shoreline. So this is just giving you the rates of change over time. The same area which I was showing you, just giving you how much has changed over time. It's quite impactful. Then finally you can see the shoreline. And finally, I know the best part is to see how you can export the rate. You can also see the rate of change, similar to what I showed you on the map. And finally, you can do an export in terms of an animated file, which is very useful for your sharing with your colleagues and partners. So this is the coastline GIF, which is generated. And also you can see the rates annual and the rates of change. And this one, the good thing, you can right click on your keyboard and you can choose to download so that you share on a different platform. So this was just a small overview so that we can be able to appreciate the various tools. So this was the example for Comoros. I'm trying to show you coastal erosion over time. This is an example of Kenya, just changing the coordinates. And from the coastlines, you can extract the area and you can export. So this is similarly for the same area I showed you, the coastline and the rate of change over time. You could do similar for Dakar, which is just an example. And you can see the situation, how it is over time. I was able to do some area in Mudezo and Mozambique. There some of these areas really affected by currents. And then I tried for a small area in Lekki, Nigeria. Then finally is to see how we can connect with other external sources who are our partners, Esri. So on the Africa Geoportal, on that link, you can be able to visit and see how to access the portal. And you'll be able to see that the datasets for Digital Africa are available in terms of the coastlines. And you can be able to do some visualization in terms of looking at the coastlines and also looking at the whole continent, of which access to your portal is free sign up. And when you click, you'll be able to see those two examples. So this first one and second one. So giving you an understanding in terms of a story map that you can actually interact with, and you can be able to click on anywhere and try to do some simulation based on some areas. So I know here was somewhere in Egypt, was actually being just as an example, showing how some of the portal areas have been affected. Nevertheless, you can move to any region and see how is the situation. For example, the coast of, you can just move down south. Yeah, around Maputo, for example, you can see the situation over time, etc., etc. Then also you can move to any location. So this is all powered by your portal, but just giving you an example that the data set now has been shared on this platform to empower others. So this is just an example for Cape Town. Then also we can move to the other example where we are showing now the whole coastlines as hotspot areas. And you can be able to see the trends over time, and you can choose the time scale. For example, you can say, hey, what happened the last maybe 2 years? So for example, you had about Durban, were affected by floods and possible coastal erosion. Now you can actually see that situation and some of the hotspot areas and some of the areas that were affected. So you can choose to look at maybe Richards Bay. So you can look at the trend either over several years, over the whole years, to just give you the feel of the area. And you can just try to do some simulations, but the data set is available for us, and you can be able to do much more in your Africa Geoportal. So those are just possibilities of how the Digital Africa is extending their partnership, working with everybody to empower the continent, and also many ways of connecting with Digital Africa, just as today's live session and the acknowledgement of the partners who've made this work so far possible, namely Australian Government, Helmsley Trust, and all the partners who connected with us, even you today in our live session, and thanking you for your participation. And our contacts are just here, and just pausing for any question, and also back to moderator. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you to you, Dr. Mubea, for that presentation on all things coastal erosion and how one can use the Digital Earth Africa platform, namely the maps, the sandbox, as well as the Africa Geoportal, to be able to assess coastline data. Thank you so much for that. I know that the leaders on the call probably have questions or comments for you. And at this point, I want to give them an opportunity to perhaps raise their hand, either turn on their video and raising their hand, or using the chat box to let us know if they have any questions for Dr. Mubea at this point. And maybe whilst we wait, Dr. Mubea has dropped the presentation in the chat box. So if you're keen to access the presentation, please do hop into the chat box and you'll be able to see it there. Mr. James Mubea. Mr. James, over to you.
So thanks, Maud, and yeah, thanks for the wonderful presentation. And sorry, I haven't been able to join the other presentation. It's been quite a busy month. And yeah, so mine I think goes to directly to Ken, because I found you presenting on the coastline information and all that. So currently I'm working on my project, and I've been looking at the coastal erosion. So actually the dynamics along the coast. And I used Landsat data, but I couldn't be able. So this is from 2000 to 2020, but I wanted to work out actually from 1990 to now, like that period, that year period of data. So is there a way through the platform you'll be able to process the 1990 to 1999, for instance, the annual coastline data layers? Yeah.
Yes, thanks, James, for that difficult question. And I remember we connected at the AfriGeo and the amazing work you do at the Kenya Marine Research. So what was possible is that the dataset that was used was what was quite feasible in terms of the Landsat data. Nevertheless, the dataset from the imageries that we used are based on the annual surface reflectance. So what you can see here is that the datasets used was Landsat 7, 8, and that was the difference between 2000 to 2021. And also there's been requests of whether we could go actually even to the Landsat 5. So we already have the geomads here, which means a geomad is a cloud-free mosaic, which can be a possibility for you as well. And the good thing with this, you could actually be zooming to, for your example, the study area of Malindi, for example. And the good thing with the Landsat geomad is that it has been corrected for cloud cover, and you still notice something in the background, James. If you are keen, you'll see some stripes. So that was the challenge with the Landsat 5 and 7 for some of the regions that we cover in the continent. So the choice is that once the geomad is improved, it will be possible to do the same for some areas. But nevertheless, the same methodology that we used, I think there'll be something in the works to bring more time series to the 1990s to get more information. But that is the caveat on the quality of the Landsat 5 that was available for some parts of the continent, but not everywhere, as you can know. So if the same area we are looking at Malindi, we could just randomly, just to appreciate that the challenge of that data was that we could look for a Landsat 5 for the same area. Also for purposes of our learning, that when you zoom to a certain area, you'll be able to see the kind of images that were available at that time. And as you can see, you are actually surprised. 2021, you could move to 1984, and maybe you might be lucky, but sometimes you might not be lucky if there was an image then. And then, so some areas were captured, some areas were not captured, but some areas were keen, especially along the coast. So it's working on that knowledge of the process behind and what was used in the geomads, which have been corrected for the cloud cover. But you can still see there's some challenges in some of the regions when we try to do the cloud-free mosaics of the geomad. But the geomads with the Landsat 8 were actually done very well. So sometimes we find ourselves in those different situations, but with time things will improve, and possibly now the opportunities to go forward.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mubea, and also to you, Mr. James, for your question. I hope you got the answer you were looking for. I see you've got the thumbs up. Thank you so much. Are there any other further questions or comments for Dr. Mubea at this time with regards to today's presentation? Going once, going twice. I'll take the silence to mean you don't have any questions. Leaders, we will also have this full presentation as part of a recording on our YouTube channel. I'll share details on how you can access that in a little bit. But at these live sessions, we love engaging with our growing user community, but our implementing partners and our partners at large also come through to these events. And I don't know, Dr. Mubea, if you can assist me today by introducing all our implementing partners, and our user community so that we can get to know each other today. I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First is to recognize Wallace, one of our early champions in the program. Wallace is from Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Ghana.
Hello, good morning and good afternoon. Thanks so much and happy New Year to everyone. I happen to be on the field, so I can't talk much, but I love the presentation you did. I remember going through it last year and then requested for access because the data was not coming up, and it said to be worked on. I'm glad it's being worked on and it's working smoothly now. Thank you very much.
Madase, thank you as well. So moving to meeting partners, we move just to Nigeria, where we have Phoebe Ozian, Professor.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. Okay.
Thank you,
hello,
Phoebe.
everyone. It's nice
Yes.
to see you. Nice to see you, Ken. It's been a while.
Yes.
Yeah. And Happy New Year to everyone. This is the first one I'm joining this year, and actually for a while because I've been out away from duty for a while. But nice presentation, well done, and good to see everybody.
Thank you, Phoebe, as well in your output when you are designing the courses. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And also your colleague, Yajemi, Professor Yajemi.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Ken.
Thank you, Yajemi. And just moving from Nigeria, we have Momon Lamin from Sierra Leone.
Okay.
So I think Momon Lamin is in Sierra Leone. He must be in the field.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's been a while. Happy New Year. And thank you very much, Dr. Ken, Digital Arts Africa, for your support, for your capacity building. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lamin. Then we move to Tunis, where we have Anis, one of our partners.
Good morning, Ken. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good evening to everyone. Thank you, Ken, and all the team for this informative presentation today. And I wish you the good luck for the next ones. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And back to moderator because of time limitations. Moderator mode. Thank you.
Thank you so much to you, Dr. Mubea. It's always lovely to connect with our partners and our user community. So if you maybe want to introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to also use the chat box. But thank you so much for joining us today. As always, leaders, we always love giving you an opportunity to connect with us. Dr. Mubea did share the ways you can do so on the screen earlier, but I'm going to show them once more. Our website is www.digitalearthafrica.org. We also have the learning platform where you can get to enroll for one of our free courses. Dr. Mubea spoke about it. Coastal erosion or coastline monitoring is one of the courses that's on offer. Our courses are available in English and in French. And so if you prefer something in French, there's definitely an offering there for you. Go and have a look. The website there is learn.digitalearthafrica.org. Our web, if you would like to send us an email, you can do so on info@digitalearthafrica.org. And we are also available on social media by the same name, on Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube, Digital Earth Africa. Leaders, it's been an absolute honor connecting with you today. We have finalized all our sessions for January, and we're very excited for the ones that are going to come in February. We want to put out a call to you. If you believe that you have a topic of interest, whether it's part of your research or something that you believe the Earth observation GIS remote sensing community can benefit from, we want to hear from you, and we would love to have you as one of our facilitators at an upcoming live session. It can be in English or in French. I'm going to drop the details on how you can do so. Please do connect with us. It will be an absolute honor to have you here as a facilitator this year.